Since Greg Conroy doesn't have reception at whatever cottage he's vacationing in, I thought today I could step into his job and take over and give us something to do and something to talk about.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jessica Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Today, we are going to talk about some trade proposals that I have stumbled across on Puckpedia's Puck GM. So kick back, get yourself a snack, put your thinking cap on, because we are about to be armchair GMs. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you throughout the off season, and we'll be back to daily shows before you know it. So this first trade is one that I rolled my eyes at. I am not going to lie. It is JGP from the New York Islanders, who has 1 year left on his deal, to the Flames for a 2026 third round pick. It's Vancouver's pick, which, I mean, it kind of looks like it'd be an early third round pick. But when I looked at this, I groaned. Why would the Flames need to bring in another veteran, especially a veteran forward, when they have plenty of young centers and wingers, more so wingers, that can do probably a more effective job, and they don't need to bring in another center, an aging center, I should say. If this were to happen, I do believe this would have to be a trade deadline deal. The Flames are beyond out of the playoff picture. Like, we're looking like top 5 picks in the draft simulator. Like, we are cooking to be picking very early. And obviously, the New York Islanders would have to be buyers. We've talked a lot about cap dumps for, like a rebuilding team, for a team like the Flames that are hardly above the cap floor. And I think that it would be fine to do it. I don't think, like, it's not a move where I'm like, oh yeah, like, they have to do it, they should do it, because they're not buyers in this situation. The only way this happens is if they are cooked. And if the stars align, where the Flames are out of the playoffs and are just kind of coasting to April, sure. I would prefer if they let as many young kids crack the lineup as possible, but we know that that's not necessarily the plan. It's not, or I shouldn't say that's not the plan. We know that hasn't been the MO in the past. Things could potentially be changing and shifting, but I don't know. So if the stars were to align, sure. Why not? I don't think there's a world where they could get like a second. I think a third is reasonable. But, I mean, we know Craig Conroy has 10 fleece general managers. Look at Vancouver. Okay, so this next trade, like, on the surface, it sounds good. Jamie Drysdale, Nick Delorier, a 2027 second round pick, and a 28 third round pick for Rasmus Andersson, Jake Bean, and Martin Pospisil. That sounds appetizing, at least. However, the Flames are pretty good on the right side, I would say. I think their biggest battle is going to be beefing up the left side to kind of match or offset the pairings. And I think if you trade for Drysdale, you're kind of telling, Hunter Brustewicz, like, okay, there's the door sort of situation. And I don't think I don't think that's what the Flames want to do. And again, there's no reason for them to take Nick Delorier, 34-year-old left winger. They don't need that. They have that. They have plenty of wingers. And, even if you trade Martin Pospisil, you still have young players that are ready to make the jump. So putting another player as their roadblock just doesn't seem the most effective model. Martin Pospisil, I think as a Flyer would be sick. I think that he brings back he would immediately inject the Broad Street Bully mentality back into Philly. Jake Bean, we all know how we feel about him here on this podcast. Sure, ship him out. He doesn't do anything. Go be a nice depth piece, I guess. I don't know. But I think that Rasmus Andersson is obviously the big piece of this trade. And I get why they did this. Older right-handed defenseman for a younger right-handed defenseman, and an old winger for Martin Pospisil, who just signed an extension, and then Jake Bean. Sure. I don't think that this is something I would do just because if this was the best offer on the table, I would probably do it. And I'm concerned about Drysdale's injury history. So it's a double-edged sword, and that's why I'm glad I'm not a general manager, because I would hate to make this decision and come to deeply regret it one way or the other. But coming up next, we are going to talk all about a trade that made me shut my laptop for a second, take a deep breath, and open it back up to make sure that I was going to be fair and rational. Coming up next here on Locked On Flames. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with some friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in, and it is the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group of people to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. I love Game Time. I used Game Time a bunch last season to go to Flames games, home and away, and it was the easiest ticket buying experience I've ever had. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for an exciting upcoming MLB game. Tired of endless scrolling trying to find the best deal? Well, Game Time Zone Deals pick the best seats in your section for you. Seat views right in the app before you buy, so you know exactly where you will be. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON. NHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. So this trade right here is one that I can only assume a non-Flames fan put together. It was likely a Tampa Bay Lightning fan. So, Tampa Bay receives... So, this is a deadline deal. that I think is just would never happen. Mackenzie Weegar to Tampa Bay for Connor Geekie, Ethan Gauthier, a 2027 second round pick, and a 2028 first round pick. I cannot express how horrifically bad things would have to be. And not just like on the ice, but the relationship between the Flames and Weegar, like things would just have to go south. Not to Florida south, but there would have to be something just so uncharacteristically bad to happen in order for this to even be on our radar. Mackenzie Weegar is a very well-rounded defenseman that brings strong leadership and morale to the locker room, which I think is so important in times like this. I think that with rebuilding, retooling, whatever we're calling this transitional period, you have to have a guy like Weegar around. I think him and Kadri are two, really all the veterans are some pretty decent morale boosters and like level-headed people to have around. But of all of the veterans, I think Mackenzie Weegar is the one that is kind of spearheading this, what's the word I'm looking for? This overhaul. I think that he is the next captain of the team. We've talked about this endlessly. I think that, you know, especially last season and the season before, he was always ready to meet with the media and take accountability and go out there when things weren't pretty. We don't always see that from leadership groups. And I think that Weegar just provides that. Like, he was born to be a Flame, in my opinion. Kind of stinks around the circumstances that it happened, but at the end of the day, you get something decent in return on top of a good hockey player. So I don't think that Mackenzie Weegar will ever be on the trading block for the Flames. I don't think this is anything that is on his radar or the Flames' radar. He has cemented himself as a part of this next wave and generation of Flames players. He came in and basically pushed the process of getting the arena approved along very nicely. And I like him. And I like what he does on the ice. I think that he is also a pretty solid mentor for these young defensemen coming in, and you have to have someone like that. And I would say, hey, you might have Rasmus Andersson, but we know that that's not happening. We know. So absolutely not. Please don't ever suggest anything like this to me ever again. And if you want to be delusional, please take that off the internet or just like go to Reddit. Is that where people still go? I think so. But let's take a peek at some other trades. Here we have something involving the Canadiens and Flames, and it is Nazem Kadri for Kirby Dach, Philip Messar, and Mike Matheson, and a 2026 first-round pick. Do you guys want me to just be stressed? Because I think we might. That feels like a common theme here. This Philip gentleman is 21 years old, has a right shot, and a right winger. I like this. That's all well and good. But the Flames have too many forwards. And that's what's killing me. And to me, even if you ship Kadri out, you need to trade some of the wingers before you start really bringing in other players. He had 4 goals and 18 points in 42 AHL games. If you're going to put him in with the Wranglers, that's fine. I think it makes sense to do to do that and then kind of work his way up, but I don't see him coming in and making an immediate jump to the Flames roster. And Mike Matheson, like, this is something that I understand, but I hate at the same time. Talk about cap dumps so much on this podcast. We talked about it a little bit ago. But he's in year 8 of 8, $4.875 million cap hit, a left-handed defenseman. Or left shot defenseman, sorry. Sure, whatever. I don't see a world where the Flames necessarily are eager to sign him after this. I don't see a world where we have to worry about the left side. I think that for what this team's expected to be this year, I think it's fine. But if it's a deadline thing, sure. And I think that there have been some rumblings of Kadri approving or being okay with going to Montreal. And of course, I love first round picks. So let's collect them all so the Flames can have their own pick, Vegas's pick, and one more. I mean, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So, in a draft that's supposed to be pretty solid and deep, I'll take it. I don't see anything wrong with this. I do wonder about just the logistics of like a roster, assembling a roster, because, and I do worry about Kirby Dach's injury history. I don't think he has really played a full NHL season in his career, which is a little bit concerning to me. Yeah, the most games he played was the 2021-22 season with Chicago, 70 games, and he had 26 points. But he is that coveted 24-year-old right shot center. Could the Flames do something with that? He's actually from Alberta. Interesting. I think that I get it. I could see if they did it. But I don't know how much sense it really makes if you're not moving other forwards out. Because that's an issue. I think a 24-year-old right shot center is fantastic. Like, that is, I really like that. But with his injury history, he's on year 4 of 4 of his contract. He's an RFA. But where are the other players on your roster going? Where is Connor Zary playing? Can he please try center? You have Morgan Frost. Mikael Backlund should probably move down to fourth line center. What can we do to send some of these forwards elsewhere? And I'm not talking about Connor Zary, Blake Coleman, Ryan Lomberg, maybe Adam Klapka. Could you potentially explore trading Martin Pospisil? Probably. I don't think that the Flames really have any untouchables, but I could get down with this as long as there's other corresponding moves. Coming up next, we are going to wrap up the show with Mikael Backlund trade proposal that really wouldn't. I don't think that this is a possibility, but I also thought that the Bruins trading Brad Marchand was an absurd possibility. Anything's possible. You guys, football season is almost here. And guess what? FanDuel is doing something very special to celebrate. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. Is it finally the Cowboys' year? Well, who knows? Maybe Dak will run away with MVP votes. And, I mean, hey, why not? If you trust your gut, I think there's no better time to do it than place it on the Cowboys or parlay your division winner dark horses. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're following me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Jess Belmosto. So this one was another one that had me rolling my eyes a little bit. I was a little too stunned to speak at first. So this would very likely be a deadline deal. I cannot imagine this happening prior, unless something again goes very wrong. But this is Nashville sending over Miguel Marquez, the Wild's 2026 second round pick, and a 2027 seventh round pick, their own, for Backlund. Again, I'm sure this young gentleman is a fine player, but the Flames don't need another winger. They could use less of them. So let's not and say we did. I think that trading your captain mid-season, especially with how high this current room and management group is on culture, would just be another indicator of how sour things are. And I don't think it'll be as sour as like Daryl Sutter's final season before he gets traded. But if your captain, your 37-year-old captain, is looking to be traded to a competitor, that's a whole other can of worms, because Nashville stunk last year. And have they done anything to really move the needle? So could this be a situation where he goes to them by the deadline, or, before the deadline, and says, hey, can you trade me? Thanks. He has a 10-team approved list. So if this is the package you're accepting, can you flip Marquez? That's my biggest thing. And then this last trade, you guys, this is something that, again, caused me to lose my mind. So I'm going to assume a Flames fan did this, because this just seems like a deal that would get Steve Yzerman canned immediately. In a world, I think that Detroit would have to be truly on the cusp of a playoff spot, and this would be their deadline move to be buyers, or maybe a little bit before the deadline. You get what I'm saying? So Calgary would receive Nate Danielson and a 2026 second round pick for Nazem Kadri. Nate Danielson is a young player who I think could be of interest for the Flames, because guess what? He is a coveted right shot center at the ripe old age of 20 years old. And I mean, hello, he's from Red Deer. So little bonus there, I guess. But his elite prospect scouting profile, I felt like a cartoon character, like when their eyes pop out of their head and like there's heart eyes because they like what they see so much. That's how I felt reading this. Danielson was a creator of rush offense, building speed beneath the puck, charging through the neutral zone with possession, carving the ice up with powerful, agile crossovers, and turning the corner on opposing defensemen. Equal parts natural speed as a skater and handling skills made that a relatively effective signature move for him. Okay, so imagine him centering Matt Coronado. Like, I am seeing a vision here. I do not think that this is something that would ever happen. Desperate times call for desperate measures, yes. But I don't know if the Red Wings get that desperate. I think moving on from a player that young, that's, again, pretty coveted role, and something you can kind of mold into, and still develop at the age of 20. I don't think that that's something Steve Yzerman does. I don't. Certainly not for Nazem Kadri. Like, I feel like there have to be several layers of safeguards. That if the Travis Hamonic signing wasn't enough to put firing him on the radar, I think that this would do it. Even if they made the playoffs, I don't know if this would necessarily go over too well, because Kadri's 35, 36 years old. But you know what? Call up Craig Conroy. Why not? See what he has to say. Because I'm sure that there are things that have been discussed this offseason with Kadri about maybe moving, if that's what he so desires or comes across Conroy's desk. But we'd have to see who it is. But I think that's a trade I would do. I would. And that'll do it for me here this week on Locked On Flames. Thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. We are crawling closer and closer to the finish line of the offseason. It is hard to believe that the Flames have not played a game in 4 months. That's a little crazy to think about. And again, we are no updates on the Connor Zary or Rasmus Andersson front. So we go into next week hoping we have something new there and something exciting to talk about as the Flames look to take another step in their rebuilding process. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcast, as well as YouTube. And I will see you all next week. Bye-bye.